This is how it ends for the greatest criminal mind of our time. Not with a whimper, not with a bang. How do they choose to reward Lex Luthor, the greatest genius in this world? Do they give him glory? Do they give him treasure? What matter of fact do they give him?
Life plus 25, Luthor. Get to work.
The next time we will kill him.
The next time? The next time? What am I going to do with you people, huh? I held up my end. I delivered to the blue boy. What do I get from my triple threat? Bow, yield, kneel. That kind of stuff closes out of town.
Why do you say this to me? When you know I will kill you for it.
Kill me? Lex Luthor. Extinguish the greatest criminal flame of our age. Eradicate the only man on earth with...
Kill him!
Superman's address.
Come. The three of us will crush the son of our jailer.
Hey, panelists, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Frank.
And I'm still Steve. Forever and ever.
And welcome to the 300th episode of Panels to Pixels podcast.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Unfortunately, listeners, we didn't give you a celebrity guest. I tried my best, and we didn't get anybody. Nobody. No, sorry.
We got Rob and Frank.
You got me, damn it. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I got Rob and Frank. Yeah. Oh, damn.
Yeah, okay. I don't
Darn
consider
it.
myself a celebrity, but okay.
They are celebrities, and
They're Pirate Corps celebrities.
they are definitely. So, within this episode, we're going to discuss Superman 2 from 1980. But,
Was it that long ago?
yeah, 1980. Yeah, so long ago, right? Wow. Oh, my God.
I was 10.
Yeah. All right. I was 8.
I was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was 11.
Damn. We're old. We're old geezers.
We're all old. All got that gray hair going.
I think I was
except Mark.
45.
But we're going to discuss, there was 2 versions of this particular film. Originally, when the Salkinds actually started Superman, the original Superman that came out in 1978, Richard Donner actually at the time started to record both films in conjunction. He was able to finish Superman, the movie, but things were changed towards the end because he was about, I would say, halfway to 3/4 into Superman 2 at that point when the Salkinds said, nope, we're putting somebody else on this. And they pulled the plug literally on Donner. And at that point, literally what they did was put somebody that they already had money invested in before with the Three Musketeers from years ago. And they kind of, I think they already figured out what they wanted to do, but couldn't work with Donner because he was very much avant-garde. He was very much a purist of being a talent, pretty much almost somebody who was trying to be an artist. But they got Lester in and they changed a few things. And this discussion for this particular episode of the podcast for our 300th is going to be interesting for the fact that we have 2 versions of Superman 2 that we're going to discuss. The Richard Donner version and the Lester cut. And I've been brought up learning and living with the Lester cut all my life. And I've watched it on TV. I watched it on DVD, VHS, the whole good stuff. But about 2006, when they came out with a box set, they finally released it. And this was coinciding with the newer version of the movie of Superman with Brandon Routh. And they put it out as a box set, and they gave you the Donner version, which a lot of people have. I have the DVD version. I'm sure a lot of you guys have the Blu-ray version. A lot of people could see that stuff now on iTunes and a whole bunch of other sources.
Yeah, I couldn't find my physical media. I thought I had it somewhere, but I finally got it streaming. Got them both streaming.
Awesome. So with that, let's go into the synopsis of the original 1980 version of Superman 2. So who wants to take on that?
Superman 2, 1980 sees Christopher Reeve reprise his role as the Man of Steel, battling General Zod, played by Terrence Stamp, and his followers who escape from the Phantom Zone and threaten Earth. Meanwhile, Superman must grapple with his feelings for Lois Lane, played by Margot Kidder, and the loss of his powers. Directed by Richard Lester and Richard Donner, the film combines elements of action, romance, and moral dilemmas, continuing the narrative of the iconic superhero.
Yes.
Nice.
Which is very interesting for the fact that, as we all know, as comic book readers, fans of film, of comic book superheroes and everything else that we do here, we have been brought up on this. And this was like the very first superhero film on celluloid at that point. Before that we had Batman and Robin. That was in the 66 version, which was kind of glorified, but kind of campy. But this was trying to be a little bit more straightforward. So the original Superman that Donner had put out in 1978 was 100% perfect, and everybody glorifies.
Right. Well, there was always the Electric Company Spider-Man.
There's that. or even the 1977, Spider-Man TV show. That we could go on and on, but I'm talking about an actual film.
Yeah, actual feature film put out in theaters.
Correct. And then this is the stamp that everybody puts everything on when it comes to superhero films. Now, I do enjoy the original film, and I know Rob and Frank and probably Steve at a later point when the new Superman movie comes out, we will cover and compare the original Superman, Man of Steel, and the new Superman movie that comes out this year. If you guys all agree.
I need to go back and watch that Man of Steel. I don't think I've ever is it Man of Steel? I have to admit I'm not a huge Superman fan, never have been. He's okay. I just think if you've got a Superman, why do you need anybody else? But it just I don't know. The character was always just too, I don't know, something for me that it just didn't.
Big Boy Scout.
I was more of a Batman. Yeah, I was more of a Batman fan, and I just didn't follow. But I mean, I love the movies. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to misspeak or speak ill of the dead either, because Christopher Reeve did such a wonderful job playing this part and really set the standard for Superman roles moving forward. I mean, everybody goes back and they don't compare to, why is his name escaping me, the original guy from the black and white,
George Reeves.
George Reeves.
Yeah,
George Reeves. They don't really compare it to him, but everybody compares Superman to Christopher Reeve. So
right.
Or Ben Affleck when he did that movie about George Reeves. Yeah. If you remember that movie.
Or wait, was it George Reeves or Steve Reeves?
George Reeves.
Yeah. But within this particular episode, we're just covering like the comparisons between both the Lester cut and the Donner cut of Superman 2, because there's so much that goes involved within this particular film. A lot of us, like I said, I grew up on the Richard Lester version of Superman 2. I saw that in the theaters. I grew up with all the stuff that came up. It would be on TV, it would be on VHS. Did I love it? Not really. It was not my favorite movie at all. I always go to the original. But the thing is as when the box set came out in 2006 for Superman, and we got the Brandon Routh movie, and then they were trying to focus in on this, and then they added in this Donner cut, which kind of added to the other cuts that we're getting. We got the Schumacher cut of Justice League. Rob, you and I both love the idea of
the Schumacher.
Oh no, Schneider. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, Schneider. I had to correct myself.
I was like, wait a minute.
I have other names in my head, everybody. So yeah, the Schneider cut. Okay. So yeah, when the Schneider cut came out, you and I both agreed that we liked that a little bit more than what we got from the theater
Oh,
cut.
I liked it far, far better than what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he had to make Rebel Moon
Oh,
and just ruin it all.
But, and then now they're talking about, and I kind of said the name already, Schumacher. They're going to bring out the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever.
I don't know why, because I mean Schumacher completely destroyed.
I've seen the Schumacher cut. Yeah, there's a lot more involved.
It's just
But-
really the Schumacher cut is really more deleted scenes.
Correct. Yeah,
And
you are
it
correct,
just,
sir.
yeah, and it just still a piece of crap movie, but
But it was so flamboyant. It was so in the zeitgeist at that time of what we got for superhero movies at that point. It was publicized by McDonald's and everything else. But with this particular movie, this was publicized as well, with
Right.
Superman 2. I remember this came out in 80? So I remember in 1980, they had a Superman magazine, and I was in grade school. You guys were a little bit older, so you guys were probably in junior high, middle school, or whatever at that point, right?
I was almost retiring.
Yeah. Yeah, getting close to middle school. I think I was 5th or 6th grade, probably.
Yeah. So I remember at that point, because they had some scandalous things in the magazine about Sarah Douglas, her in provocative pictures and stuff like that. That was the go around. Now that magazine is very hard to come by because everybody goes, "Oh my God, oh my God." But back then it was so big. But now it's like, if you look at it, it's like, this is nothing. This is what we see every day in every magazine that we get. I remember having that magazine, but the thing is that I got to see this movie in the theater, and it was the Lester cut that we got. But my question to you fellas, regardless of all the stuff that we've gone through, what we've talked about, how do these both compare after 45 years to you? Obviously, we've seen the Lester cut, the Richard Lester cut, over the years for the past 45 years.
Right.
But
yeah, so I had to refresh my memory because it'd been so long since I watched. I couldn't even tell you how long it's been since I watched these movies, so I don't know. Okay. Honestly, I had to go back, and I when I originally did this a week or so ago, I watched the original version first, because that's and then I watched the Donner cut.
All right.
Like a couple days later, and then I watched the original version again because I forgot a lot of stuff from, and so really, it's hard. Part of me hates to say this because Marlon Brando did so good, but I think I prefer the Lester cut.
Wow.
There's some things in the Donner cut that I didn't, and we can get into it when we do some more discussion, but just as in general, I think when I finished these watches of it, I had to sit back and go, I think I prefer the original. I wish there was a way they could take the Marlon Brando stuff from the Donner cut and put it into the Lester
and
cut.
segue it.
Then I think then I think it would be I think it would be almost perfect, because I think Marlon Brando, the stuff that he did, I mean, that for me, that's my favorite part of the Donner cut, is everything that had Marlon Brando in it. And none of that is in the Lester cut. All props to the actor they brought in to be the voice of the Fortress, the bald guy, and Clark's mom, or Kal-El's mom. All props to those actors. But Marlon Brando, just those scenes, because he's so powerful as an actor, and what he did that part, just really. So for me, if somebody could go in and make a cut where they just took all the Marlon Brando stuff from the Donner cut and put it in got rid of the stuff that from the Lester cut that they replaced, and put Marlon Brando back into the Lester cut, I think then you would the tones would be way different, but that for me would be a great would be a great movie. I think so.
I have to disagree because I like a mix of both. And the
Mhm.
reason why I state this is Donner has more of a visual cue with a lot of his characters. And he has extended scenes. Like there's in the very beginning with the courtroom scenes, it's more Brando than it.
Again, that
Yeah.
I love that. That is I would love put that whole thing in the Lester cut.
Yeah.
That all of that, because that gives us, that fleshes out so much of the movie. That sets up why General Zod was so against Kal-El, against Clark.
Correct.
You know, and the animosity that he had. You don't get that in the Lester cut. You just get you get a brief thing of when the thing is floating away where he says, you know, you'll bow before me, Jarrell, and that's it. That's all.
You
That's the
and
only
your
mention of
heirs
Jarrell.
and
And
blah,
your
blah,
heirs,
blah.
Yeah,
right.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's all you get in the original version of it. That's the only hint you have that there's any connection to Jarrell at all. The House of El.
Yeah.
You know. So no, but go ahead. I cut you off. So
No. I like the idea of they did intertwine when they did the Donner cut. They actually did intertwine Lester stuff for the fact that a majority of the stuff that was filmed, like I said, it was 3/4 of what Donner had already done, but this was
Right.
in different viewpoints at certain points. Donner's was more focal towards Brando than it was the actual prisoners at that point, and for them being on jury. And
well, and he gives us. I mean, the Donner cut gives us a. There's a whole tone to the Donner cut that's a very darker, not just in the way the film looked, but in the way the story is told. It's a very darker. I mean, it's the Donner cut, right? Is the one where she tries to shoot Clark.
Yeah.
yes,
Like-
yes,
You know,
that was
where,
Lois.
you know,
Lois tries to expose
Lois
her.
tries to shoot him,
Yes.
and you know, she reveals that it was blanks in the gun, but he reveals to her that he's Superman because of that scene. You know,
I prefer that.
and whereas I like that better than what we got in the Lester cut, which is him tripping and falling
and being
into the
clumsy,
fire and not
yes.
and not being burned, you know, and that's how she realizes. But I just there are things in the Lester cut. I just, like I said, I wish there was some way they could put the two together.
I would say the
You know,
same thing. There's certain things in there. There's one scene in the very at the very end, towards the final battle scene, when Superman comes to the Daily Bugle, Daily Bugle,
Planet.
jeez,
Yeah.
Daily Planet.
Planet.
Wow, I'm getting all my universes mixed up. Everybody, sorry. Anyhow, so he shows up, flies up to the Daily Planet. He's there outside the window. He goes, in Lester's cut, he goes, General, would you care to step outside?
Step outside. Right.
Whereas with the Donner cut, it is so funny. He goes, General, have you heard of the freedom of the press? Where would an alien understand that in any way, shape, or form? Donner didn't understand that. And it's like they needed some sort of script doctor on that. And that would be Carrie Fisher. If that were the case, she would have said, would you care to step outside? Would probably be
Right.
the best line more than anything. And I agree with that comment because I've seen it online and everybody goes, yeah, you're right. I'm like, yeah, if Donner had done that, it would have been perfect for the fact that it makes so much sense. It's very, I can't say human. I would say it's more social in the sense of, hey, can you step outside? Let's talk.
Yeah.
So, but there's so many things you could pull from that. Some of the Lester cuts, like even during the battle within New York City, were a little bit more jokey and campy with the wind.
Well,
and everything else.
Lester's cut is definitely a superhero movie.
Right.
It's a comic book movie. Whereas the Donner cut is, like, it's a little darker in tone.
Correct.
And the storytelling wise, it's not quite as comic booky to me.
Yeah. It needed that mix, honestly, in my opinion, for the fact of the comic as well as what we got from the original Lester cut. But
And the fact that it is a comic book movie is part of the reason why I can give it a lot of forgiveness. Okay, because I am actually a huge Superman fan. I grew up reading the comic books, and a lot of times in the comic books, Superman had any ability that they wanted him to have. They would just hand wave it and say, well, he's an alien from Krypton. Of course he can do this thing.
Which they
Right?
did
So he's
in
got
the
like
movie.
psychic powers.
Which
exactly
Donner
right.
Cut, yeah, which the Donner Cut does a lot.
No,
of.
actually,
Exactly.
the Lester
No,
cut.
Oh,
the
is it
Lester cut. The Lester cut does a lot
I'm
of
sorry.
that.
The Lester Cut is the one where he does
It's where
does the whole thing
the
of
plastic S on his chest that he throws at them. And
Right.
Correct.
So
at non and
And-
the multiple Supermans
Yeah.
that he shows up
the
with. Yeah,
kiss
you're right. I'm
to
sorry.
make her forget that she's Superman.
and Zod
and that- yeah,
actually
that she knows he's
levitating the
Superman.
gun to himself, and yeah.
Yeah. His heat vision being also telekinesis. is
Right.
kinda-
So that's
you know.
that's where I find that the Lester cut, even though that's the first version that I got exposed to, I look at it and I go, okay, as a comic book movie, as a fan of Superman, this works.
Yes.
Because
Right.
that's what you're used to. You're used to, if you've read the comic books, Superman used to do all these different things. Like the old explanation for why nobody could tell that Clark Kent was Superman was that when he was Superman, he'd be moving so fast that his face wasn't clear to people. And that's the thing that would keep his identity secret. So
Very much almost
It
similar
fits.
to what they did in Smallville when they called him
right,
the Blur.
It fits.
Yeah.
But that's part of the reason why I also prefer the Lester cut a little bit more to the Donner cut, because there are actual things in the Donner cut that just don't make sense.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Now there's things in the Lester Cut that don't make sense either.
Yeah,
that
true.
the Donner Cut makes sense out of.
Right.
Which is why, like I said, and I prefer you mentioned about the kiss at the end. I prefer that ending to the rehash of we're going to turn back time
And
again.
the reason for
we're
that
going to do the same
was
thing we did.
they hadn't finished the ending of Superman.
And
so they said, fuck it. We're just going to go ahead and use the ending that we were going to do for Superman 2, turn the world back. And
so it actually was the other way around. That actually
originally the Donner cut
originally it was supposed to be right.
Like at the very end of Superman 2 was going to be turning back the time.
Right.
Whereas it was a split off, like kind of like they were going to do a cliffhanger and then they go into Superman 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
so Superman. So the ending of Superman 1 wasn't originally going to be the turning back. Of time.
No.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be
okay.
The nuclear missile that he sends off into space is the missile that actually hits the Phantom Zone and frees them. That was the one that was supposed to do it, not the elevator from the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, exactly.
Eiffel Tower that the Lester Cut uses. Okay, gotcha. Now that makes sense to me as far as how the ending, why the two movies would have gone together if they had left the Donner Cut.
The really interesting thing is Lester. They chose Lester to do the movie, but Lester had previously sued the Salkinds and people because when he did the Three Musketeers, they broke that movie up into two movies and didn't tell him that that's what they were going to do.
Yes.
And only paid him for the one movie. And he sued them and they were like, yeah, now you can't ever do that again.
It's all budgeted. And that's how the Salkinds were able to make and work in budget.
Well, listen, I mean, there's a lot of, when you look at Superman 2, and all the stuff that really happened behind the scenes. There's a lot of shitty stuff that really happened. So with the Donner Cut, which while it was a successful movie, the first movie, and it made tons of money,
right?
It was still supposed to have the same tone as the first movie, but they still wanted to make it lighter. So here's the shitty things that happened in Warner Brothers. One, Donner was having a lot of problems with the producers, all these things. He did record 75% of it, but when they bought in Lester, in order for Lester to actually have directing credits, he had to have about 51%.
It was like 40%. I heard, but
Or
yeah,
something like 47%. He has to have 40%, 47%. So what he did was they actually re-filmed scenes that were already filmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order for him
Okay.
to get the director's credit instead
And
of
that's
Donner.
why they cut the Brando stuff out, because the Brando stuff was all Donner.
The whole thing about Brando was
Brando didn't want it, right?
No, it's not that Brando didn't want it. Brando actually sued because what happened was that Brando was supposed to get 10% of the box office receipts.
Correct.
If he's not in the movie, he doesn't get shit. So what Lester did was he cut all of the Brando stuff, so they didn't have to pay him 10%.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot of real.
There's that, and then there was all the
And
stuff
Gene
that happened with
Hackman's
Hackman.
stuff was actually overdubbed by a voice over.
So with Gene Hackman, he, as soon as Donner got fired, he said, "I'm not recording. I'm not doing it anymore," because he already did about 75%.
Correct.
So they took his footage, and sometimes they dubbed his voice in certain areas.
Yep.
And in other areas, it wasn't even him; it was an actor just facing the other way.
Correct.
So there was a lot of really sneaky, shitty stuff that happened with this movie. Now I'll tell you this: when it first came out, I saw this movie, loved it. I haven't seen it since then.
This is where Rob goes, why did I watch this movie again?
Yeah, exactly. I saw this movie and I had to say that I was like, wow, this movie is.
Well, and like I said, I can't remember how long it's been since I watched.
For me, this movie was crap. Both of them actually were crap. But the one thing I would say is that I do like the Donner one better because it's a little more cohesive in a lot of the stuff that he wants to do, and I think it brought more depth to Superman and Christopher Reeve compared to the Lester cut, which was a lot lighter in tone, and it was just more comedic. It really has some comedy moments there. I was like, that's the most stupid thing I've ever seen.
Well, he also did that in Superman 3 too, by the way, everybody.
Exactly. So the whole thing is that I personally think that you know, to me it doesn't hold up. And granted that Christopher Reeve, yes, he is, you know, Superman and all these things, but we all need to let that shit go. All right? It's the same thing with Michael Keaton, where everybody's like, oh, Michael Keaton's the only Batman. Let that shit go.
Let that go. Let that go. I even say that too. Rob,
it's just
you and I feel the best Batman that we got was Batfleck.
For me, it's Ben Affleck. Course. But that being said,
and Henry Cavill was the best Superman
for me too. But people are so hanging on to that. Like, I'm not a nostalgic person, so people are so hanging on to that past that I'm like, dude, let it go. Because when you really look at Batman '89 and you look at Superman.
Yeah,
they are they're a product of its time.
Correct,
right? Mm-hmm. So it's not timeless. You could enjoy it for what it is, and you could enjoy it for the fact that it did bring, you know, superhero movies and that genre to life and have people take it more serious. And that means that those who are fans, those who are comic book fans, finally got their, you know, their movie. That what they wanted, and it did open the door for other superhero movies, but it's not great. That's what, at least in my opinion, I just think there was a lot of stuff in there that was just bad. The bad acting, the overacting in some cases. Were they stuff in the Lester cut that made better sense than in the Donner one? Yes, but I still like the Donner one better because it had a little more serious tone.
Yeah.
It didn't mean. I mean, it still had its light moments, but it just wasn't goofy.
Yeah. Well, and by the same count, there's stuff in the Donner cut that makes more sense than the Lester cut. Like the fact that he shows a whole lot more of Zod, Nan, and the Zara, right, attacking that town. We spent a whole lot more time showing Ursa. Thank you, not showing them attacking that town. Whereas in the Lester cut, you just go from the cop car to suddenly the news reporter is on the side of the road and Zod is walking up behind him.
Also, with the Lester cut, you'll be interested to hear that in the TV version, they wound up killing the kid.
Right.
Where Non
kills him,
kills him. Whereas in the Donner cut, that's not there.
Right.
And then on top of that, Non had also had an issue of getting and developing these powers. In the Donner cut, they didn't show that. And in the Lester cut, he's like struggling to even get the fire eyes, the burning eyes.
The heat
and
vision.
It was kind of jokingly going there because he has the same, they have the same powers as Superman.
But again, that's the goofy tone that Lester put in there compared to Donner, which was like, all right, you know what? They all have powers. Why would one have it and the other one struggle? All three of them should just have it because especially Nod, who's actually the most powerful one probably there.
Yeah.
He should be the one that's actually, raining destruction. But they didn't do that.
They've already established that Non is not kind of as intelligent as everybody else.
No,
you know, like he's an animal. He's actually there because he killed multiple people, and that's his crimes.
So Jack O'Halloran's basically playing Jaws.
He's like a serial killer
from Bond, in Superman 2.
Yes,
with powers.
The biggest thing that bothers me out of the both cuts is the fact that Superman turns back time, he makes the world go round, right?
Mm-hmm.
He still goes back to the diner and beats up the bully who has no idea what the hell happened because they turned back time and that shit didn't happen.
That's one.
But they even left it. But they left the line in where in both cuts. By the way, they left the line in where the guy, the manager of the diner, says, "I just fixed this place up."
Right.
Well, again, that's one of the moments that doesn't make sense because it's true. Like Frank was saying, if you turn back time, this poor man just got the shit beat out of him or whatever, and he doesn't even know why. Don't get me wrong. The character itself probably deserved it no matter what.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Right. But that being said, there was just no reason for him to do that.
Exactly.
The Lester cut, there was a reason for it. I still find it to be stupid, a stupid scene.
That makes Superman very petty.
Yeah, it's a very petty thing, even though, like, when you see in Man of Steel that the guy, pours, beer on his head and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
The guy goes outside and his rig is on two, light poles, and it's just completely mangled.
It's mangled.
That's also Superman being petty, but that's a really good way of him getting back at him,
Right.
Without him telling him who he is, too,
exactly.
by the way.
So, but, I don't know. It's just, I'm more of like I said, I think this is a movie of its time. I think,
it
they
is.
were fun when they came out. As I watched it, I don't know. I mean, Lester's cut is more fun and, crowd pleasing, but Donner's vision is like just offers a richer, more like emotionally resonant story that honors the Superman's mythology.
Yeah.
And that's totally, like I said, I go back to the comments I made at the beginning was if there was a way for them to go and recut and put the two together, and obviously that would never happen.
Who says? There's a ton of people out there on the internet. Listen, they took Obi-Wan, the whole show of Obi-Wan, and they made a 2-hour movie, which made so much sense, and it's a lot better cut than the series.
If somebody could go in and do that, it could meld the two. Oh, and by the way,
it's probably already been done.
Probably has been done. Who knows?
Get rid of the gratuitous anti-smoking or the smoking disclaimer. Did anybody else I happened to just let the credits roll on the Donner cut for whatever reason. I just let them roll and I was doing something and I suddenly look up and there's this huge smoking disclaimer on the screen of the portrayal of people smoking was not meant to be whatever from. I'm just like, it's a movie from the 80s. Everybody smoked in movies in the 80s.
It's a credit to its time. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Don't try to backpedal now and go, we're sorry for doing that. Just I just saw that and I was just like, really? That's what your addition was to this also? Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's what turned me off of the Donner cut was just
well, it's so funny too because it shows its time where it is at that time in film and celluloid. And I don't mind it for the fact that you see a lot of things back even on TV, black and white to George Reeves, everything else. Even the what was the cartoony version of Superman?
The Fleischers?
Yeah, from like the Ground Round that we used to see. Oh man, I forget the name of the company.
Are you talking about
Super Friends?
No, not the Super Friends.
Are you talking about like I know which one you're talking about. That it's like it looks like the black and white version, but they had a color version of it too.
Correct.
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. No,
they always played it in the Ground Round. Now I'm showing my age, everybody. We're Gen Xers here.
I was just gonna say, you mean the restaurant?
Yes, the restaurant, the Ground Round.
It's like, holy crap, dude!
That must have been an East Coast thing because I don't know anything
it
like
was,
that.
It was, Steve.
I grew up on the West Coast.
I've never even heard of it. I'm from the East Coast. Come on.
Wow.
I don't know what they're talking about either.
No, I never heard.
Wow. Frank and I know.
It's like it's like a hamburger steak place, but like a higher. It's not exactly McDonald's, but
it was in the malls. But they would always have screens on. They would have cartoons on, and they would always
saw it.
They would have what was the Fleischer cartoons?
The Fleischer Brothers,
yeah, and they would have that version of Superman playing constantly in rotation, and I would always watch those, and I would love them. But the thing is that we don't get that. We don't have that anymore. A lot of what we get is a lot of filtered stuff, a lot of stuff that is transposed from comics into movies. So a lot of the kids now have to go see a PG-13 film. When Superman came out, it was PG. Right. Same thing with Superman 2. I believe Superman 3, and then by Superman 4, it was PG-13 at one point, as I recall. Because I was just watching.
PG-13 didn't come around until Red Dawn, so.
Well, the reason for PG-13 was because of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
And Gremlins.
Yeah. So that was the big thing because the scene where, you have somebody, pulling somebody's heart out and setting somebody on fire, the Motion Picture Association said, we're going to have to do something about this. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and because you remember, and Rob, I love it because I've looked at this so many different times because I'm a huge Red Dawn fan. I'm a huge fan of all these movies. But, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, when it was in theaters, was a PG movie.
Yes.
Yeah. But you're right. They created the PG-13, but it didn't get put on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom until after it was gone.
Yeah, no, it was from what I believe is that movie itself is what really.
Yeah, that was the one that prompted it. Yeah, but Red Dawn, Dreamscape, those were the actual first two movies to actually.
Yeah, first one was Red Dawn, and then Dreamscape was after that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Red Dawn actually, if I remember correctly, Red Dawn was actually filmed before Temple of Doom, but it didn't get a release until after.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Temple
it
of
was.
Doom. So,
I did cover that with Wendy Odd-Uppers on Adrenaline Cinema podcast way back when.
I've talked about it before. I actually have on my wall in my apartment, I have an original Red Dawn movie poster.
Nice.
That I got from the movie theater when I was however old I was, 16 or 15 or whatever. What year did that movie? 83, 85? Whatever year it was. But I found it when I retired from the Air Force. I found it in my Foot Locker. It was all folded up, and I took it to Hobby Lobby and had them mount it, and so you can still see the fold marks on it because I had it stored for 20 years, folded up. But I've got that on my wall.
Yeah,
so, the original Red Dawn movie poster.
Very cool.
I wish I waited to do something with it until all these conventions that C. Thomas Howell and before Patrick Swayze passed away. I wish I could have taken it to one of those conventions and gotten some autographs on it. Maybe that would have made it really cool.
Red Dawn actually shows as 84.
84. Okay, that would make sense because I would have been 14. So I would have been able to go to the theater by myself. And yeah, I remember whenever the movies, when they were done playing in the theater, they would just lay the movie posters out and you could just take them. And I had it stapled up on my wall for years until I joined the Air Force. And then I folded it up and put it in a footlocker, and it sat in that footlocker for 20 years until I retired and went back home and found it. And was like, oh, I don't even remember.
Well, they do that in AMC too, except by the time you get there to get the poster, they basically have the shitty stuff that's like,
gone.
And Margaret goes to like the diner or something,
Yeah.
Right? Or whatever, but like all the really cool stuff, gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, but I just that's one of my prized possessions that I have in my apartment. That movie poster. So
that's cool.
Yeah. We've digressed. Are we still talking about Superman 2?
Well, to some degree, but
yeah,
it's talking about living in nostalgia, but in the sense of this particular movie. But we have to get to.
You guys are turning me around on the Donner cut now. You really are. I want to watch the Donner cut again, just to see if I still. I mean, they're still. I'm with you. I mean, they don't really hold up, honestly, as movies, but the nostalgia for me, I am a nostalgia guy. I do like nostalgia. So for me, I have the nostalgia of remembering, where I was when I saw the original version, and those kind of things. And so I have that little bit of that love for the Lester. I like the Kiss version of taking away her memory rather than the turning back of time. But again,
that just comes out of nowhere. So here's the whole thing about that, right? There's a reason why in the Donner cut he has to reverse time, and it's more because he knows that there are going to be consequences if he falls in love with somebody or he is with somebody. He has to do something about that. In the Lester cut, they really didn't explain why he did it. You understand? So when he was talking to Jor-El. Mm-hmm. Jor-El basically was just saying, are you sure you want to do this? And let me tell you, I think Lois Lane is the most selfish piece of shit there is because she just stands there.
I do too.
She stands there and she's hearing this entire conversation, and in no time she says, well, maybe you shouldn't do this because the world needs you. No, she just stands there and goes, well, you know what? Now he's all mine. What made you fall in love with Superman was because he was Superman. Now he's going to be a regular guy.
Regular schmo. Yeah.
So why didn't you fall in love with regular Clark Kent? You understand? So that to me made no fucking sense. That's the only thing. It's just like I just felt.
That's why I'm a huge as much as I'm not a Superman fan, I'm a Smallville fan.
Okay.
And I really like the way the story did it in Smallville, with having her fall in love with Clark Kent.
Humanized literally Clark as Superman that time in Smallville. Yeah, I understand that at that point. That's why I actually liked Smallville, but I think that's a completely different universe all to itself.
It is correct. It is. So yeah, it has no. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Rob. In these versions of, and again, for me, it's just I go back to when I was 10 years old. It made sense to me. When I was 10 years old, it made sense to me that he can throw a green crystal and rebuild the fortress that he just totally destroyed, so that he can have it for the next movie.
Even though it could kill him later on,
I mean, I just, as a 10-year-old kid, I remember just really enjoying the fun ride.
No, and of course, I mean, when you're young, when you're that young, and hey, listen, I mean, you read comic books and stuff like that, and all of a sudden you have a movie like this. You don't care how bad it is, but as an adult, after you go back to watch, especially, how long has it been now? 40 years or something, or
45
whatever?
years.
Yeah, 45 years. Yeah. So after 45 years, you go back and watch it for the first time, and I go, oh boy. Because it's one of those things where, yes, there have been superhero movies now that are done much better with a lot more better storytelling.
Are you talking about Black Adam?
Yeah, Black Adam is right up there with I don't know, dental surgery or something. No, but it's just, so yeah, when you watch it nowadays, it looks campy and everything. But when I watch both, like I said, I watched both versions and I thought, okay, the Donner cut, you could tell that because the part where Lois Lane shoots him, that was actually, from what I hear, that was a screen.
That was
a
like
screen test.
A screen test, yeah.
That was a screen. That whole thing was a screen test.
Yep.
Right. That's why it kind of looks a little different and things like that. And that's why you kind of see also like Margot Kidder's like hair look different.
Yeah.
In certain parts of the Lester cut.
Correct.
Because it was being refilmed here and there. So like her hair would change. These are just little things you notice afterwards. But other than that, I just thought for me the Lester the Lester cut was very hokey. The Donner cut for me had a little more serious tone, which I liked. But I think they both are still like I said, they're both still a product of their time. And did we get them? Great. All right. It just shows what fans can literally try to do or force studios to do. Because this was a product of fans just saying, hey, we want the Donner cut. We want the Donner cut. And Donner went back and, he re-edited it. He didn't film anything new, but he re-edited the entire thing. Now.
At 90 years old.
Yeah. Now. Yeah. Zack Snyder, in the other hand, he actually conned HBO to giving him money to finish the damn thing.
To make a whole new
And
movie.
instead of them like, oh yeah, we'll give you a couple of $1 million, and he went, yeah, okay, sure. And then as it was going, he goes, I'm gonna need more millions here. And by the end, it was like, holy crap. HBO sank so much money into Justice League, but guess what? He got to redo the movie that he wanted to do. And was it better? I thought it was better than, what Josh Whedon had. Yeah. But it's one of the few times that you will see that, and it's
it's definitely the only time you're ever going to see it from him.
You're probably right. But the thing is that I don't think in film history you will ever see a studio go back and go, sure, here's about $20 or $30 million more for you to finish the film that we already put in the theaters and made money off. Yeah. But the only reason that was done really was because since HBO Max was taking off, exactly. I forgot who was in charge of the studio back then. He said, listen, we need content, so screw it. Yeah, let's give him the $20 million or whatever it costs in order to put this out there. Was it a hit? Yeah, for the moment it was a hit because, a lot of people tuned in to see this fabulous freaking 4-hour cut.
Yeah. Well, what is it? Is it Aliens? The Cameron one where when he went in and made the director's cut that think because I got the quadrology.
Same here.
There's a scene, there's a thing with him talking about it where he says the original movie that he made, that's his movie. Yeah. That they wanted him to do a special edition, so he did a special edition. He didn't want to call it a director's cut because the director's cut is what you saw in the theater. Yes. But he said they wanted to pay, basically, he didn't say it like this, but they wanted to pay me a bunch of money to come in and re-edit my film. Sure.
I'll just edit in all the deleted stuff that they didn't want in there because of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Exactly.
And honestly, I do like that cut better.
It's so much better.
Yeah, you get so much more. And I think that's the reason why I like the Donner cut. It's got its serious tones. I have to agree with Rob. But the Lester version has the gimmicky stuff that we grew up on. But I think if they intertwined everything 100% between Donner and Lester, between Superman 1 to Superman 2, we'd have a perfect film of what it would be. So if somebody's out there with AI, have fun with those particular films and combine them to perfection.
Like Frank said, it probably is already out there. We just have to look for it. We just have to look for it.
So if you guys know that, let us know.
Yeah, because I'll go back to what I said originally. The Brando stuff in the Richard Donner cut is just amazing.
Well, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it, because with Brando, when he's having a conversation with with Clark Kent, he's basically telling him, if you lose your powers, you'll never gain them back. But at the same time, when he was going to get those powers, the consequences were that he will never see Jor-El again, because Jor-El is giving everything of his essence to bring him back.
Correct.
So that made sense compared to the Lester cut, which is like, oh, I gave him my powers and then I gained them again.
I get rid of him, but I get him back. So
and there was like really no reason, kind of like he was just kind of like and not only that, but so here's a really cool thing that ties this to Superman Returns. So in the Lester cut, Clark Kent gives up his powers and then he goes in to sleep with Lois, right? But in the Donner cut, he goes to sleep with Lois and then gives up his powers. When you watch Superman Returns, which is technically a part 3 to those two movies, Lois Lane has a kid that has
superpowers.
So that means that is really tying in more to the Donner cut than the Lester cut.
And it ties into Batman because the guy with the bald head that has the little Joker tattoo in the back of his head in the movie is interesting.
Where was this? On what?
I haven't seen Superman Returns.
Superman Returns.
I don't remember that.
You got to watch it, dude. The guy who plays the piano in front of the kid, because he gets intimidating. If you look at the back of his head, he's bald, but he has a Joker tattoo on his.
Oh, I remember that, but I didn't even think of Joker when I saw that movie.
I know that. I just laugh at that. It's like things all colliding all at once, and little things that can link together. But yeah, I thought that was a really good discussion about the combination of both films and what we thought. I don't know about you guys. Did you have anything else to add?
Just as hokey as it is, and I appreciate is Gene Hackman. I just recently did a rewatch of a bunch of Gene Hackman movies since he passed away. And he really does, as campy as it is, as jokey as it is, his playing of Lex Luthor is really good. So I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of over the top in some places, but there's also some really good stuff in there that just reminds you of how good of an actor,
how dynamic he was.
His portrayal is so good that even when you're watching like the shows and things that they have now,
like the CW,
they include some portion of, they've got Miss Tessmacher, they've got Otis, they've got those different versions of their own thing there, but it's just the legacy of, hey, this was so cool when it happened originally.
Correct. It's not because of Gene Hackman. I think it's just more like, hey, they were great movies and they had great characters, so let's just grab those characters and bring them in, which is what a lot of movies do. Or, when it comes to doing redos, just bringing in characters that were not canon to the comic book, but they were so memorable that they brought them into, hey, let's just bring them into the future. Because I think Miss Tessmacher, Tessmacher, she came out in, I believe it was Supergirl, when they introduced Lex Luthor there, and she's going to be coming out in the new Superman too.
Yes.
So
and to add to that, Miss Valerie Perrine, she still suffers from. I think she's got Parkinson's disease right now. She's been struggling with that for the past number of years. But Sarah Douglas, who plays Ursa, follows up with her with cons and everything else, which is great. You have to realize, like, Valerie Perrine is in her 80s. These people are not young spring chickens anymore. And we all saw Valerie and we thought, wow, she's beautiful. She's so pretty. And same thing with Sarah Douglas. Sarah was a model before she got into film, doing Superman 2. But she goes around to conventions. So if you're out there, go to your conventions when you get Sarah Douglas there. I think Jack O'Halloran still does a few on occasion. Same thing with Terrence Stamp. They do combination photo ops, which is amazing. We did lose Gene Hackman, as we all know, and that was a sad thing. I thought he was a brilliant actor, but he was suffering.
It was sad the way
it went down.
The way it went down, right?
It was.
Yeah.
You know, if it was like, oh, he was surrounded by family and stuff like that, I was like, all right. But the fact that they found him a month later with his wife and they were just decomposing in the house, it was like, wow, that's really bad.
That was.
Especially for an actor of his caliber. I think one of my favorite movies with him, I would say Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a great movie.
He and Denzel Washington, just the chemistry that they had and the back and forth of both of them was just freaking phenomenal. Even though he was technically the bad guy, you could kind of still root for him in a way, even though you're still rooting for Denzel Washington. That's why, like, in the end of the movie, they're like, you both made a really big mess up of this whole thing, because you can understand where they were both coming from.
Yeah.
But Gene Hackman just has that thing where, you know, he commands a certain presence, but he's your everyday guy. He's not a fucking, you know, he's not like Mr. Good Looking or nothing like that. But he is just, he commands that presence, which I really liked about him. And, you know, things like The Conversation, what was the other one? Behind Enemy Line. I mean, there was just so many of them out there where he's in there, and he's just great. He was just great to watch. There are just so many.
The Conversation is such a underrated gem that you just don't get that everyday portrayal. And then he goes from that. And I just rewatched a few of his films, and one of the ones I rewatched now the racism doesn't really hold up well today, obviously, but the French Connection, where he played Popeye Doyle, not true to the actual history of what actually happened, but his portrayal of that character is really good. Is just he embodies who that is, and it's a tough watch nowadays.
Well, I think it is with anything,
but it's also again,
80s.
It's a product of that time,
right?
And that's the 70s. That's the 70s. That's even
70s,
worse.
correct?
Yeah,
so, that was actually 1971. That movie, I mean, the great thing that Gene Hackman does. So, like, you know, again, like I loved him. Also, it's a stupid movie, but I loved him in The Quick and the Dead.
It's great in The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah. But the one thing Gene Hackman does very well is he could play a good guy, and he makes you believe in that. And he could also play a bad guy, and you could believe in that too. Right. You know, it just says so much about his ability on his acting abilities. But he's been in some phenomenal movies. I mean, The Firm, Young Frankenstein, Unforgiven. I'm the kind of like The Birdcage, which was also super funny, because that's the other thing. He could also be funny.
Yes, he can do comedy too. My favorite movie of his is called Target. And he plays a retired CIA agent who's older now, but you see it's a really good movie. It's got him and Matt Dillon plays his son in it. So but he just has that normal guy energy.
Yeah.
But then he can turn it on in a second to be something more than what he is.
Yeah.
So, unlike, I love the Bourne Supremacy or the Bourne Identity with Matt Damon, but he looks like a superhero,
Yeah.
But Gene Hackman, the other one, Uncommon Valor.
Yeah.
He's just this regular guy. So anyway, this is not a Gene Hackman
podcast. It's just saying a lot of the, because these actors, I mean, listen, the three major actors, so Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder and Gene Hackman, they're all gone.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that out of those three, I think Christopher Reeve will always be known as Superman.
Correct.
Right. Even though he's done some other movies, but I would challenge so many people. Name all the movies that Christopher Reeve has been. I know a lot of people be like, well, there's Superman. It's like, you're right.
Yeah.
The other one, Time After Time, which is, kind of almost sci-fi-ish.
And Somewhere in Time. I think of Noises Off, if you remember that comedy with...
yes.
I forget the Michael... the British actor.
Douglas?
Michael Caine.
Caine.
Caine?
It was Michael Caine and the whole ensemble cast too at that time. Some of it from SNL, and that was a comedic thing. And he was also in Death Trap, if you remember that, with Michael Caine as
Death
well.
Trap with
which was really immense because that was based off a play, and he
did the Rear Window remake when he was in the wheelchair.
Correct. And then he did
but still
the remake of Village of the Damned in 1995.
Yeah. John Carpenter.
But still, as Rob said, he's Superman.
He's Superman.
He is.
You always remember.
You say Christopher Reeve.
And then Margot Kidder's the same thing. She's always going to be Lois Lane. I mean, that's all I remember her in.
Or Screaming from Amityville Horror.
Oh, sisters.
Yeah, but, that's going to be her thing. Gene Hackman, and no one says, oh, well, he was Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor, yeah.
There's so many other things that he is so well known for.
Have you seen Gene Hackman in drag, everybody? Just watch The Birdcage.
And he was great in that too. Yeah. So, so it's a shame that we lost him. I mean, he was 90 something, but it's just great seeing him. And let me tell you, people like Terrence Stamp, who are still around and still making movies, he was so hokey in this whole thing. The whole kneel before Zod. What's funny about that is that it's
Michael Shannon made it his own.
I would say that line is probably the most famous line of any.
It's so iconic.
Of all the Supermans. Any movie,
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's still. I mean, they use it in other TV shows. To where they. I mean, Supernatural had a takeoff on it. They had a little kid who got super strength, and he said kneel before Todd. So and it was all a homage to
exactly.
Zod.
So it's a hokey line because the way he delivers it, it's you watch it and you gotta laugh.
It is.
But
it is true.
It's such a funny. It's just a funny line. I mean, I liked it a lot. I think the best Superman movie, let's be honest, is one that was not even called Superman. It was called Brightburn.
And
Mark and I covered that on this.
Steve and I covered that here on Panels to Pixels a long time ago when it first came out.
That's a rough watch.
Actually, and Steve, you do not know this, but I speak to the producer of Brightburn.
Yeah, I remember you told me you got to interview him.
I spoke to Nick and hung out with him, and Nick's a pretty cool dude, and he loved that movie and he loved doing it, but
I wish they would have came out with the other kind of like the hints
about it.
The hints that they gave out was there was like an
Aquaman, Wonder Woman,
and a Wonder Woman, something like that.
Yeah,
and I wish
Dark Justice League.
Yeah, I wish they came out with something where it's like, okay, let's see the true Aquaman, which is probably going to be just somebody who just decimates everybody. He doesn't give a shit. Wonder Woman, the same thing.
It would have been
like
amazing.
The Boys probably got it better.
well, that's coming back, everybody, in 2026. Look forward to that when we cover that in Panels to Pixels podcast.
Well, actually, to be honest, you can actually make the case that the kid from Brightburn did become this guy from Homelander.
Literally, that's what it is. The evil Superman. Oh, man. All right. Well, I think that about covers everything that we had on our comparison to the Lester Donner cut of Superman 2 from 1980. But obviously, you guys already are familiar with the voices that you're hearing now on the podcast. Robert, Frank, Steve, myself. We'll be back a little bit more. We do intend on doing the new Superman movie when it comes out. Rob, you had an idea. Do you want to present that to us or to the listeners of what you wanted to cover, like a comparison to.
When did I have this idea? I'm sorry.
A while ago, about a week ago. You mentioned that it's like, hey, we should just like talk about the original Superman, Man of Steel, and the new Superman film.
Yes. I mean, that's something that I thought would be great to see all three origins.
Okay.
Because while I don't think that the James Gunn one is going to really dive into his origin.
No.
It might, I don't know, or it might just, everybody already knows the origin of Superman, so they might just
jump into it like a Spider-Man movie, like with Marvel did.
You know, exactly. I mean, if they did that, that's fine. But you know, it's just
or how they tackle Superman. In itself too. By the way.
So I just thought that if we did like a comparison of the original, you know, of course, Superman, Christopher Reeve, first movie, Man of Steel, and then this one coming up, we'll see, you know, which is the better one, or which one is actually the one that I mean, the one for James Gunn, I don't know, man. I'm still not convinced.
I feel the same way, but I'm looking forward to seeing what we get out of it.
Oh, I got my ticket reserved.
I know you do.
But I still not convinced.
I know, man.
Well, everybody has to see it. You know what I mean? Like,
correct. Well, we'll see what.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Man of Steel, so I may have to. If we do something like that, I'll have to watch Man of Steel.
You never seen Man of Steel?
I'm not a Superman fan, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, the reason I've said that I like the movie is because it treats Superman as what would happen in a real world like today if a person like Superman existed. Right.
Okay.
And it's not the whole BS. Oh, everybody welcomes him with open arms. No, everybody's going to be suspicious about a person who has that much power.
Yeah.
You know, and who can control.
I may have to check. I may have to check it out. I'm looking at the cast list for the upcoming Superman, and I didn't realize. So, wow, Pruitt Taylor Vance plays Jonathan Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
Got the wiggly eyes.
Nathan Fillion's in it. Sorry, I don't want to. Yeah, spoilers if you don't want to hear who's in.
No. It's already out there, everybody. So
everybody already knows who's up. Yeah.
Look, if you haven't at least seen a trailer, that's on you.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer.
We all have.
But yeah, no, I'll have to check out Man of Steel if it's a little different than the other portrayals of Superman.
Yeah, a lot of people say that he's very emo also, and it's like, no, I don't think that he's emo. He's just kind of like, really? I gotta protect all these people, even though they treat me like shit, you know? And that's a very human reaction.
Correct.
You know, which is what I feel like, you know, because I always feel and I understand, Steve, where you're coming from. I think Superman, the way he's always been portrayed, is just this goody two shoes, which, you know, there's no darkness in him. There's like he's just always in the path of righteousness that you kind of get tired of it. You're like, the guy has all this power, but
there's got to be some sort of
there has to be something to it, right? So I think with with Zack Snyder's, I mean, not to say that he had darkness in him, but you know, he had a struggle with it. He was like, okay, who am I, and how? And my dad has told me that somehow the world is not ready for me yet.
And dealing with real death too. That's the one thing that they do.
It also showed the real power of Superman. He destroyed an entire city with the Zod. You know, if people out there, if you haven't seen it, shame on you. But you know, it's like he destroys an entire city, and that's what made Superman 2 so hard to watch. Because when you see 3 Kryptonians trying to go up against
one Superman.
There's not that much destruction compared to what Man of Steel did.
Correct.
In Man of Steel they leveled a city.
Which we get out of what happens and why the Justice League is where it is, with Bruce showing up or the Flash showing up going, look at all this destruction. that happened at that one day.
Exactly. And it makes the world scared of a person like that or any other being that comes from, from Krypton. It's like they could destroy the entire planet.
Yeah.
So, so these are like the little things that when I saw this movie, I was like, oh, they're really dealing with it as, hey, if this person existed in this world, how would we react? Do we react when it was like, oh yeah, he's our savior with open arms, or are we going to be suspicious of him? So and that's the thing I liked about it. While other people are like, oh no, but he was, Superman's all about having hope and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, listen, cool. But he's not Mother Teresa. Let's be honest.
Well, also we got a little humanizing within him within Smallville, which I liked. But the thing is that also within this movie, it gets a little hokey with the whole. Hold on, we got Crypto. There's a dog here, and that's the only question that I have. We do get a real, actual version of Hal Jordan from the Green Lantern Corps, where he doesn't look like the pretty boy Floyd guy that's out there doing things with his ring. And
Nathan Fillion is how old now?
Yeah, he's our age, so
so it's
but he's a rookie.
He's not looking very pretty nowadays. So
yeah, I know.
That being said, it's going to be interesting. I find it interesting that the new movie is going to include so many characters.
Yes,
it's like
almost like a Justice League version build up.
It's so packed full of. Then you're like, this is supposed to be the first Superman movie, or like the first kind of reboot of this movie, and this is what honestly DC is hanging everything on.
Yes,
because if this doesn't work, you can forget about the DCU. Period.
Like Black Adam, where they went ahead and they threw all those characters in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, Black Adam was more of Dwayne Johnson.
Exactly, it's an ego thing.
It was an ego thing. He thought, "Hey, my brand is so huge that I could take over the DCU and it's gonna, do great." And what he didn't get was like, no. That's one. And two, you're not supposed to fight Superman. You're supposed to fight Shazam. That is your arch enemy. But
correct. Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson's ego was, no, I got to fight the strongest one of them all first. And then I'll fight, and it's like, dude, no, man. And then you just go ahead and screwed up, Henry Cavill on that. So
yeah, with that ending scene, I did believe that too.
Well,
everything was left out there.
Henry Cavill should have just said, "You want me to be there? You're gonna find that I want you to sign on the contract." He should have had an ironclad contract where he's like, "And if it doesn't happen, I'm still getting paid."
I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I do love him as The Witcher, and
you know what I got to see from him? What's the movie that he's like a special, like a special, like
the unmanly, the ungentlemanly.
Yes.
Yeah. I forget the name of it, but I know which one you're talking about.
Ungentlemanly Art of War or something like that, or Art of Warfare. Or
no. Something. I have to look it up. But I just watched that movie, and I was
going to watch it.
I actually liked it. I thought it was actually very good, and the guy who plays Reacher,
yeah.
Ooh.
He's in it, and I did
not. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Correct.
Wow.
That's what it is.
Two big, huge guys.
Well, the thing is that the actor who plays Reacher on this, he was actually very good. Well, when I heard that he wanted to play Batman, after seeing Reacher, I was like, oh, hell no. Because I'm sorry to say, while Reacher is a very, what I would say, popular show on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's a great show. His portrayal of it just like, for me, it doesn't do anything.
Is it Tom Cruise? It's because you thought Tom Cruise did it better?
No,
Go ahead, Rob.
I love the actors.
Tom Cruise acted better on that, I think. So if Tom Cruise was actually 6'5" and was bulked up that way, yeah, he would have been great.
Tom Cruise is 5'5".
No, but I'm just saying that if he was,
that's what he's saying.
Because the character in the book, he's supposed to be like a gigantic
he's really,
man,
almost 7 feet tall.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, yeah, I thought Tom Cruise's portrayal of it. I mean, I never read the book, but I kind of like that portrayal of it better than Reacher did. But
see, I've read the books and I really like the show. I think it does a really good job.
I like the show, and I've never read the books, but I
didn't say I don't like the show,
good.
but I just the way he portrays him is like his acting just not that great.
It's kind of like
it's very flat, just kind of like very
straightforward and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like the delivery of lines seem
I'm not
pretty
saying
good.
I don't like the actor, but I like
the show. I think is good. For me, he wasn't delivering the way I thought it was, and then I saw him in this movie, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? This guy does have a little bit more range than I thought."
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, maybe you could do the Superman thing. We'll see. I just
or he could do a Batman. He could be a Bruce Wayne or Thomas.
Well, that's
Wayne.
what he wants. He wants Batman.
He wants Batman or Superman.
Batman.
He wants Batman.
He wants Batman.
Yeah,
he could play the older Batman from Dark Knight.
Well, that's what Ben Affleck was doing.
Yeah, but now that
Ben Affleck is older, Ben Affleck is older than him.
But Batfleck, well, yeah, Batfleck's my age, but whatever. The fact is that I think this guy could give the presence and the physicality and how he looks, and then present that probably visually and emotionally, acting wise.
Did anybody stick with Titans?
Oh, I haven't gotten back to Titans after the first 2 seasons.
So he plays Hawk.
Yeah,
in Titans, he actually did that pretty well.
Yeah,
oh, really? I
Hawk
gotta go check that out.
Yeah. So, but no, I just stuck with the first 2 seasons, and after that, I was just like, all right, this ain't doing it for me anymore.
Titans is available. Everybody out there who has a Max app subscription.
Right.
So check it out. There's also all the other stuff that's coming out too, because Superman is a new thing. Apparently, because the new movie's coming out, you could see all the movies of Superman, Batman, everything else on the Max app. This is me giving a plug. I don't get paid on this. I'm just letting you know you could watch it.
And by the way, that's going to change back to HBO Max.
Yes,
it is.
So, yeah. It's fucking
so keep that in mind, everybody. But we all have our moments in who actors or superheroes we love. But we will be getting back to this conversation again, probably in the near future, because we're gearing up with Panels to Pixels podcast. We're going to be talking about Fantastic Four, the new one that's coming this July. So look forward to that. We're going to be coming to that. We're going to come July. It's going to be a Panels to Pixels podcast and Podcastica crossover where we both do. Well, it's going to be on both platforms. We're going to do Sandman cast. So Jamie Dimmick and myself are going to be covering Sandman from Neil Gaiman. It's the last season, unfortunately. So we're going to be covering that. So look forward to having, Rob, Frank, Steve, myself, possibly Becky, depending on whatever she wants to jump in on, because there's going to be a lot of stuff going to be coming out that we're going to be covering. So if I'm not here, they'll be there, and just keep that in mind, everybody. So we could have fun with this, and I just want to give you guys a little bit more content out there. So I think we covered Superman 2, and we got into a little bit of a rant.
As we usually do.
It was a good conversation, though. Yeah.
Just to kind of put more stuff out there, I just saw on Hulu Predator's Killer of Killers.
Oh yeah, I have it.
Yeah,
I
was pretty good.
Watched it.
That's actually very good. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
The new Alien one, I hear the new what's it called? The new Alien show?
Earth.
Alien Earth.
I hear that's going to be fantastic. Also, so
I was looking forward to covering that possibly on Adrenaline, but we'll let you guys know about that. But the new Predator movie that Rob was talking about, that's an animated film. everybody.
Yes, right.
So a lot of people were giving it a lot of crap because they thought it was a live action film and they go, it doesn't look that great. Well, visually, obviously, because it's animated. So, but
no, it's actually really good. This guy, Trachtenberg, he's been doing a great job with reviving that franchise because let's be honest, after the first Predator, everything else after that just went downhill, and it just kept going downhill more and more and more. Predator. What was the one with they were in the Predator planet? The Predators.
Oh, the Predator.
That's actually not bad.
That was Robert Rodriguez, by the way.
Yeah, that's actually not that bad. Predator 2, I think, with Danny
Predator sucked.
That just. No, the one with Olivia Munn, that was horrible.
Olivia Munn,
Olivia Munn and Punisher, the Thomas Jane was in it too.
No, that was horrible. And then, and of course, Alien versus Predators, those are not that great either. So
Alien versus Predator, Predator, Requiem.
The first Alien versus Predator is pretty good.
No, it's not, dude.
Stop it. It's entertaining because
Stop it.
You got Weyland Yutani in there, and then they did an Earthbound thing.
I mean, yes. Is it better than the second one that came out? Absolutely. But it's still not, what it should be. And again, look, the Predators look like they had no necks. It was just like their heads, they look like bobbleheads after a while. And you're like, stop, man. But that's again the genius of the first movie, which had a actor that was like 7 feet something. So the mask was kind of in proportion with the body. And I guess in this one, there was like, listen, I only got this guy that's 5 feet tall. So, the head's going to be a little bigger,
Yeah.
But no, I think that's actually going to be Trachtenberg is doing such a great job with that. Like, what was it? Prey. You guys saw Prey, right?
Yeah.
That was,
and there's that little extra. Did you stick around to the very end?
Yeah. No, so there's that of course does connect with Prey. As a matter of fact, that connects with Prey. This movie connects with Prey and connects with Predator 2.
Yeah, because of the pistol. Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, no, there's so if you can, definitely watch that. I thought it was
I still have to watch it. I have it on my queue. I have so much to watch.
Dude, that's all I do, man. It's just watch stuff. It's almost a full-time job.
Yeah, that's what we do as on our regular life here because we love theater. We love movies and shows.
By the way, I saw Lilo and Stitch.
Oh,
that was fun. And the ballerina was
John Wick's ballerina.
Yeah, okay. It was just okay for me. It was just okay.
Okay, I gotta go watch it still. Okay. Kat and I might actually cover that to finish up our John Wick series review on Adrenaline Cinema. So we'll figure that one out. But yeah,
okay.
So
all right.
With that, I just want to let everybody know. We did put something out for this episode to submit your feedback, but we could be heard on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, or whatever podcast player of choice. If ratings are available, which they are, just please do give a rating or review. YouTube as well, Panels to Pixels podcast. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell. And then on top of that, you could follow us on our Facebook group, facebook.com, Panels to Pixels. Literally on Instagram, Panels to Pixels podcast. Just follow us there. Whatever's on Facebook is on Instagram. So just follow that and submit, whatever comments and the images below what we're covering. I did do that here. You could send us a regular email at panelstopixels@gmail.com. Panels to Pixels 1. Sorry. Panels spelled out 2TO pixels and the number 1 @gmail.com. Just write us out a regular email, or if you want to record your thoughts and be on the podcast, you can. We'll play it. Everybody has these cool nifty devices. You can record yourself and then we'll play your voice, and then we could hear your thoughts and we could discuss it. Other than that, I already mentioned where you guys hear Robert, Frank, Steve, and I here, or Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, or on the Pirate Core Entertainment Podcast itself. I'm hoping that Rob and Frank come back for a little bit more action and do a little bit more. Steve and I will continue to do Panels to Pixels coverage on the regular stuff that we always do, if not more. And then invite everybody else, just like Rob, Frank, Becky, Mandy, whoever really wants to come on, that we all have friends who are podcasters. But other than that, I just want to thank everybody for listening. I'm Mark.
I'm Rob.
I'm Frank.
And I'm Steve.
Same podcast, different panel, different pixel. And this was Panels to Pixels podcast. And we'll see you on the next panel. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.